for as long as I've worked in the industry, you've always had stories that buy-to-let's dead, that's it.
We recorded the highest level of new stock entering the market for the past 4 years.
There's some really well-established landlords who are effectively just retiring.
60% of all the private rental stock is a huge opportunity.
It actually also presents an opportunity for those that are in it for the long haul.
So the question we're asking ourselves today is buy-to-let dead? Welcome to BTL Insights. My name is Louisa Sedgwick. I'm the Managing Director of Mortgages at Paragon Bank. And today I have Richard Merritt, who is the Managing Director of Alexander Hall, and Jason Wild, who is the Head of Sales here at Paragon Bank. So tell me, Richard, is buy-to-let dead?
Spoiler alert, no, I don't think it is. I think what's very clear, it is very much an ever-changing landscape, but it's certainly not dead. On the sort of positive front, we've got the fact that rates are coming down. Demand for rental property remains very, very high. According to Rightmove, new listings are far higher than they were 12 months ago. And Alexander Hall, we're privileged to be part of Foxton's group. And last month, in October, we recorded the highest level of new stock entering the market for the past 4 years. Wow. And that was 8% increase compared to last year. Coupled with the fact that then record rents are being achieved. You've got, with greater stability, there's lenders innovating, sort of new products coming to market, and crucially tweaking of affordability as we've seen rates come down. I think it's probably more fair to say that it's adapting, it's evolving.
Fantastic. We'll stop there then. No, Jason, any thoughts?
I think the key word that Richard said there is adapting. I think for as long as I've worked in the industry, you've always had the press, stories that buy-to-let's dead, that's it, landlords are exiting in their droves. But if you kind of go back to when the initial 3% surcharge was introduced a few years ago, I think many of us thought that's going to be the end of it. And landlords just adapted. And certainly with the most recent uplift in stamp duty as well, that additional 2%, I think in some ways, I think it was quite good that it was brought in immediately, that there was no run-in period, because I think that could have probably caused a few problems with process and, mass rush to get stuff in and get stuff completed. And brokers that we spoke to who had deals that, clients in the pipeline there's plenty of frustration, a few choice words no doubt had, but deals still stuck together. And even the following week, we were getting purchase applications come through. So again, I think it's exactly what you said there. I think landlords just adapt to the market.
Yeah, I think they're a resilient bunch, the landlords. And let's face it, we know that there's a supply-demand mismatch. We've got 21 households queuing up for every new rental property, and we've got 1.3 million people on the social housing waiting list. So ultimately, that impacts, the demand for rental. And we're seeing average rental yields at 6.3%. So they're much higher than what you would get on the high street. So I think for me, it feels like really great news. Richard, headwinds, what's your thoughts on buy-to-let headwinds?
Yeah, so I think as an overarching summary, we've got higher rate environment, tax changes, increasing legislation, and further regulation to come. But just sort of deep dive a little bit more in that. And I think the immediate things on the horizon, and the most concerning point for landlords are the rate piece. Yeah, if you look at typical rates from compared to January 22, when they first started rising, the average rate is just under 1% more expensive than it was back then. However, it's also just under 1% more expensive than it was this time last year, January, and certainly around January 23. So whilst many will be coming off deals and facing a higher rate environment, it's still better than it was 12 months ago. Allied to that, you've then got the drive towards green and energy efficiency. And yes, that comes with a cost. And there's obviously a change to the requirements that the Labour government have brought back in. However, I think what gets lost in the narrative is there are lots of small cost-effective changes that a landlord can make. They don't have to go out and spend 25 grand on a heat pump or 15 grand on solar panels. They can do things that will improve the energy efficiency of the property, make it cheaper to run, and ultimately make it more lettable, particularly to the modern tenant. So yeah, lots of challenges, but I think it's been somewhat overblown.
I think you're absolutely right. Coming back to the rate piece is a strange phenomenon that's happening into 2025. 37% of all fixed rates, whether that be residential or buy-to-let, are reaching the end of their fixed rate term next year, which is a massive opportunity for brokers. Of that, if you look at those people that are coming off a 2-year fixed rate, they're actually going to benefit from a lower rate. The people that are coming off the 5-year fixed rates have still got a little bit of a payment shock. So my feel is that we're going to end up in a 2-year cycle. So you're going to get landlords, in particular if they've on a product transfer or a switch, are going to look to do a 2-year product as opposed to a 5-year product, which again leads beautifully into opportunities for the broker market.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of the opportunity, obviously you get varied data, but there's 70 billion pounds worth of roll-offs compared to 52 million in 2023. So it's a hugely larger market opportunity. And Jason touched on the stamp duty piece earlier. I think, to be honest, with since the 3% surcharge was introduced, if you were out of the acquisition market, you were out then.
Yeah,
Absolutely. An extra 2%, that sort of scale of increase is unlikely to deter investment if that's your MO, if that's your strategy as a landlord.
Yeah.
So we've kind of looked at some of the headwinds, and I think you're absolutely right. There's some of the headwinds with some of the EPC changes that are maybe afoot. We haven't yet seen the output from that consultation. And you've got the Renters' Rights Bill, which again may deter some landlords, but also encourage some others. There's actually some of the rules that are within the Renters' Rights Bill are very akin to what we're already seeing within the private rental sector. So I think those headwinds, we could quite easily dissolve those. You just talked about a couple of opportunities. Are there any other opportunities that you see, Jason, and what you're hearing from the brokers when you're talking to them?
Yeah, I think one of the ways that buy-to-let seems to have kind of heavily evolved is more down to the sort of professional, down to the limited company side of things. And, we as a team, we do a wide range of brokers who are very experienced in limited companies, but also brokers who are kind of getting involved in this kind of market. And, the opportunities that are out there, just understanding the way that limited companies are structured. And, we've got our criteria, but there's many other lenders and there's pretty much homes for most kind of limited company setups. So I think once you're working on that basis and you're dealing with limited companies, strangely, you end up dealing with larger landlords. You start getting more cross referrals coming across. We have brokers who have had really good introductions from their own accountants, tax advisors who've been speaking to clients and said, you need to go down this particular route, and it's been introduced there. So from my point of view of what we see out on the road is that limited companies, but also that kind of high yielding type property, your HMOs, your multi-unit blocks, landlords kind of chasing those kind of things there. But even then sort of going down the route of kind of refurb products, like a project, buying something, perhaps a repossession, an old probate sale that needs kind of refurbing, and you're flipping that back round and putting it straight on the rental market. So those are the kind of areas that we see as a team, more and more inquiries coming through.
I mean, it's fair to say that 60% of the private rental stock is unencumbered as well.
Yeah.
So I think what you're going to start to see is landlords that want to hold the properties that are asset rich and cash poor may need to bring those into to refinance. So it may well be that they move into the buy-to-let arena. And 60% of all the private rental stock is a huge opportunity.
Absolutely.
I think that we've obviously just talked about a hell of a lot of change, and that creates complexity. And ultimately, in terms of opportunity, complexity is a broker's friend because they can reach out, contact their customers, offer help, guidance, and support, and an opportunity to educate and advise. And I think from a landlord perspective, whilst complexity is tough, and that will deter some really sort of amateur landlords. It actually also presents an opportunity for those that are in it for the long haul, because if there are certain people exiting the market, we're not even exiting the market, just deciding to not come into the market, it creates opportunity for those others. And I think from a landlord perspective, what we've really seen is the greater professionalisation of the sector, and what that means is just that as they have to professionalize their business, and it should be viewed as a business, they need to have appropriate professional products from lenders, advice from brokers, from tax advisors, but also from agents as well. If as something becomes more professionalized, I actually see a greater opportunity for lettings agents with management of properties, because you need to run it like a business and offer those steps to get through all the legislative and regulatory changes as a new property becomes let.
Yeah, I think you're right. The best friend. We're all the best friend of the landlord. Okay, so Jason, what's your thoughts on what's next for the buy-to-let market? We've talked about a few things there, but what's next?
What's next? So I think product innovation from lenders is certainly something that's key. I know we've just been discussing regarding these potential EPC improvements, and I think what we need to see is more innovation there from lenders, because at the moment you effectively just get a reward for having an A to C property, and it's kind of how you kind of incentivize those landlords, whether or not it's kind of someone buying a property or someone with their existing stock. How can you incentivize them to bring that property out to an A to C? What are they going to do in the meantime? Certainly if they've got a HMO and they're looking at trying to make improvements to that, or they've got a large property, are they going to be able to keep the tenants in residence for that period of time? So again, things like that there, which I know that we and many other lenders have been working on things like that in the background. So I think that's certainly something that needs to come to fruition. But equally, I think we all kind of need some idea of exactly what the measure is going to be. Is it going to be based on EPCs, or is it going to be some different metric they're going to look at? So I think some clarity on that would certainly be helpful on that. I think as well as that, we'll probably start to see, some of the limited companies, some really well-established landlords who are effectively just retiring. They're not getting out for any other reason than the fact of we've had this for 20, 30 years now. We kind of, want to basically exit the market. We've done our time there, and it's then how you're keeping those properties in the private rental sector, certainly if they're all tied up in a limited company. So I think there could certainly be some opportunities in there. Whether or not you're buying individual properties or whether or not you're buying a whole limited company. Again, with that, I think it's a big potential opportunity going forward.
Great. So you started off the conversation with a strong rental demand, which is absolutely great. Yeah. For Alexander Hall, what's next for you guys in particular around the buy-to-let market?
So I think this really plays into the point I made around education. We want to be able to contact more of our customers, advise them on their options around buy-to-let. And just to be clear, there are a hell of a lot. It's not just all about the things that we've touched on. Limited company, HMO, there's lots of opportunities in things like buy for university products, holiday let, which we saw a bit of a boom post-COVID. Still a huge opportunity there. But also I think just in terms of lenders that offer different approaches with regards to affordability and assessment, because it's quite clear that with rising impact of tax, rising impact of charges, the rental yield in certain areas is not quite what it was, and therefore the need to supplement with personal income for certain customers is quite strong. So for us, it's about demonstrating that there is a breadth of options. So we're really looking at a program of support, lots of educational material, but most primarily contact, getting in touch with landlords, being available to have a conversation and sort of be there to help them through what is a tricky but still very positive market with lots of opportunity.
Fabulous. So for all the doubters amongst you, hopefully we've now proven that buy-to-let is not dead. So thank you, Richard, for joining us this morning. Thank you, Jason. Jason, if anybody wants to contact Paragon, how do they go about doing that?
Yes, we have a field-based team of BDMs who specialise in talking about buy-to-let day in, day out, be it limited companies, HMOs, all the stuff that we've spoken about today. You can follow their contact details on the website, or equally you can just contact the head office. We've got a call centre there. I'm more than happy to deal with any inquiries.
Fantastic. Thank you.